to World of Warcraft Live Q&A.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another video reaction. This time is live. It's been in live the Blizzcon with the virtual ticket, so I'm recording my reactions in live time with
Battle for Azeroth
this panel.
Q&A panel live at Blizzcon 2017.
This
My
is
name
live.
is Jenny Blyton, also known as Warcraft Jen, and like many of you, I have been playing World of Warcraft for over a decade. I think it's safe to say that World of Warcraft has changed many of our lives. It actually led me to meeting my husband. Some of you may know him as Vajira. He's been hosting that PvP tournament over there.
I think I know him.
It's also allowed us to share our love and passion for this game through content creation.
I've seen his channel.
For that, I couldn't be more thankful.
Husband channel.
To say that
There are a lot of questions about this expansion, and the Horde of Azeroth artifact, for example, is very...
As excited as I am, I know that you all are just as excited to get to the questions. We've had some amazing announcements about what to expect in this expansion, and I know I am excited to get into it. So let's meet our panelists.
She sounds nervous, right?
Let's have you
I would
introduce
be.
yourselves.
Alex Frasiabi, creative director.
Hey.
I am Jalen Brack. I am the executive producer, and I am a WoW classic enthusiast.
Ian Hasekostas, I'm game director.
Chris Robinson, I'm the art director.
And I'm Matt Goss. I'm one of the lead game designers.
Really nice team.
you guys
They
for being
did
here.
an amazing
you
expansion with
prepared?
Legion, and we hope
Ready?
Battle for Azeroth will keep that.
So as with previous years, over the past couple days, we have collected your questions from online, as well as from those of you here in attendance from the Dark Moon Fair. I know I am really looking forward to these. So we are going to take our first questions from the audience. Let's take it away.
Okay, let's see.
Hi there, I play a warlock in AIE on Earth and Ring. I go by Ro. I have a question regarding Warfronts. It's a two-part question. The first thing I'm wondering is the availability of Warfronts. Is it going to be similar to, say, Invasions, where they're only available for a period of time? Is it something that we can access whenever we want? And then along those lines, how will the reward system play into it? Will it be similar to rewards we see in other endgame content? Will there be a reason to motivate us to always do Warfronts at least once a week? I would really like to know your philosophy on that.
So
Interesting.
I think the easy thing to say is war is difficult, and it takes a lot of effort, it takes a lot of supplies, it takes a lot of resources to build up to. So I think there's going to be some downtime before the war breaks out, and there might be some time on the other side when it's settling down a little bit. So we're looking at it more of I hate to say event-based system, because I think it's going to be up for longer than just a short amount of time. But it's going to be something you're going to build up to, you're going to have it, and then it's going to go back down on the other side.
Ah, nice.
For rewards,
It's
we're
not going to
looking
be active all the time. So
all the
that's
other
nice.
systems we do that are similar to that. So if you think about the way we reward Timewalking, the way we reward like the Legion invasions that you mentioned, that's kind of where we're going to go. We haven't nailed down exactly what we're going to do, so we don't have details yet for that. But I think it's in that kind of space where we'll have something really good for you to do at least once, and then we want you to keep doing it if you like it. The challenge with everything we do with rewards is if you like doing it, have reasons to do it. If you want to do something else, do the thing you really want to do. And so finding that balance, we might have a different philosophy, or sorry, just a different.
So we will
way
get
to
a
do that
big
goal, but that's the goal
reward
that
for
we're
the
gonna
first
have
time, and then if you like it, you will keep
So does that mean
being
we will
rewarded,
see
but not at
possibly,
the
like,
same
PvP
level,
and
right?
PvE rewards when we do those, or is that still being worked out?
It's still being worked out.
Let it fly
again,
around.
Warfronts or PvE
Okay,
at launch.
It hasn't
we have,
shown in the whole evening.
I mean,
Now that
I've
I
seen
start
a lot of
recording,
buzz
it
around,
appears.
We get PvP Warfronts,
Yeah.
so cool, and I mean, we love that
You
too.
may
But
see it around.
we're going to do PvE, and we'll see where the rewards shake out. We might share some of the armor because it's, PvP armor that we do usually has a very strong alliance and a very strong horde theme. This might be a case for where we make a really cool armor set. I think we actually may have shown in the art panel the Warfront sets that we made. So yeah.
Awesome. All right, let's go to our next
They look
question.
amazing, by the way. The Horde.
From the Tribe Guild on Mythics, and we would like to see if we could possibly have basic reputations become account-wide. I realize exceptions like Bloodsail Admiral, things like that, would not work. But all the old ones, we would love to have those be account-wide. Those of us with lots of vaults just don't have the time to grind out the rep on everybody.
Nice suggestion. And by the way, I love. You can see the specter of the World of Warcraft players. There are young people and older people.
Progression, because I think, and obviously, I'm just saying, as sort of devil's advocate here, we wouldn't actually do this. But if all rewards, if everything were account-wide, you could have alts. But what would your goals be on those alts? What would you be striving for? What would your rewards be? Now, obviously, rep is different from items and power, but the question I would ask when those situations arise is, what is it about those reps that makes you feel like you need them on multiple alts or on all your alts? So I think, with content-based unlocks, for example, that's something we've definitely gone towards making account-wide. If you're getting access to content, if you're getting access to a dungeon, like in Suramar, or you're getting the improved flight whistle on Argus, those are things we don't want you to have to re-earn. That kind of defeats the purpose. But if it's, you're working your way towards Revered so that you can buy a pattern that you want as a leatherworker, or you want a helmet from there, well, that's meant to be more of a power progression that is a separate set of goals, the same way you have to level up your trade skills, you have to get your gear. So I'd rather dig into what those things are and maybe uncouple things from reps that feel too burdensome or drive you towards repetitive behavior you're not enjoying.
Ours was mostly getting the gear, the specific things for the various classes. Thank you.
Makes sense. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, our next question.
Hi, I'm Nick, or Dilemmas from Illidan. My question is there any plans for a stat squish, and if so, what's it going to look like? Also, is Enduin a paladin officially?
Ooh, I think we saw that with the demos, right? Possible stat squish going on?
Stat squish, Ian will talk about. Anduin, 100% not a paladin. He is a priest.
Wow.
So he's still a priest. I would like to.
He's just a hero character, and hero characters can do things that normal priests cannot. As for the stat squish, obviously, any of you who checked out our playable demo here today, you probably noticed, or if you saw some of the screenshots from our panels, numbers were a lot smaller. Yes, we're doing another squish like we did in Warlords for all the same reasons. It's not changing your player power relative to the content that you're accustomed to do. The point isn't to nerf you. The point is to bring numbers back to a sane space. The one thing different this time around is that we're also squishing item levels. It's something we probably should have done the first time around in Warlords. Because we didn't, you might notice if you level a character on live, going from Wrath to Cataclysm, you might jump 100 item levels in what's on your item, but only get 2 or 3 points of stamina or something. It kind of undermines the meaning of what item level is supposed to be. We're bringing that down too.
Oh, so they are squishing the item level of items.
We have.
And the stats. That's nice.
Hi there, my name is Sparty. I'm the Guild Master of Death Jesters, Zeros to Heroes, and Tauli. With the new communities coming out, we'll essentially have cross-guild chat. What does that mean for cross-faction chat, and what will be our options for communication in Battle for Azeroth?
So communities are still character-based, which means they're still faction-based. So yeah, you do get, you can have your 2 communities in your guild, and you can talk between guilds now, but there's no cross-faction chat, and we don't have plans to do that. I mean,
it's going to be with the groups.
I think Alliance and Horde are fighting. And
if you do want that, of course, you can do that at the BattleNet, at the battle tag level, right? If you make a battle tag group, and that will be integrated into the client, and you'll have the same access to it as you would your community chat. But the key thing there is that's player to player, like human being to human being, not orc warrior to human priest. Those two don't get along. Because part of the point of communities is also a structure built around shared gameplay, right? You have these around running dungeons or battlegrounds or raids or whatever else you're doing together. And by definition, Horde and Alliance players cannot do those things together.
All right, so you can still be a double agent on BattleNet app. All right, our next question.
Hi, I'm Zillions.
By the way, where is the red t-shirt guy?
We are still recruiting. Getting to my question, is there anything in the works that may help with guild recruitment?
The number of times we've talked about guild recruitment increases, it's nonstop each expansion. We don't have anything right now. What we really hope, like when we look at communities and we were building the community system, we were hoping we could find social structures that were a little less, hard to get into, a little less friction to get into. So if you like playing with specific people, you can make a community, try it out, and if you like those people, maybe that becomes a new guild that you join. That's kind of the approach we're taking now. I think in the future, it's again, it comes up every time. I'm sure we'll look at it in the future.
I think guild.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Guild base is out of time, right?
Hello,
It's
my name is
outdated.
Raputin, aka Team Fortress. Shoutouts to the guild Bloodshot on Prodmore Alliance. So my question is about the new leveling scaling. These days, a level 30 Legion character is a lot stronger than a level 30 Cataclysm character, say. You can kind of run around even without heirlooms and one-shot quest mobs. So my question is, with the new level scaling, will mob health and damage be rebalanced as well? And how will heirlooms be impacted by the new leveling process?
It will be similar, I guess.
So there's a lot. There's a lot going on. So 735 level scaling. We've done some work to make it a little bit more sane. A lot of that is going back into items and giving them, items that aren't heirlooms, the same kind of power that they have. The same kind of power that they should have if they were a level 110 item, right? So using the item budget correctly. When we're looking at it for 8.0, I think we're looking a little bit more holistically about the tuning of the game and what kinds of things we can make better, the better experience. Like the one-shotting is, it's kind of fun, but it also kind of degrades the way that game used to be. So those things are what we're looking at. Heirlooms, still in debate, still talking about.
In a big way, I mean, like Matt just said, one of the hugest advantages heirlooms give you right now is that they're actually properly itemized in a world where there isn't other properly itemized gear to compare it to. So rather than nerfing heirlooms, I think we're often taking the approach of just making the other options better, shrinking that gap a bit, and then as we tune the scaling curve and combat times and pacing, the difference between a player with heirlooms and one without won't be nearly as big. Of course, you have the XP bonuses and those other things that are still a factor.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Our next question.
How you doing? I'm from Storm Rage Alliance, and shout out to the Mustard Squad.
Instead of
My question
nerfing
today is
heirlooms,
about the
buffing
Heart
the
of
other
Azeroth, the new
alternatives.
amulets coming up in Battle for Azeroth. During the What's Next panel, there was some discussion about the progression system and the ways that we would be powering it up. And you could draw some pretty clear parallels to the current artifacts in Legion and the artifact power system. Could you make any comments about the artifact power, artifact knowledge stuff, something you liked, disliked, and if it influenced any design decisions going forward?
There's a lot we like with artifacts, and I hope you guys liked it too. Like we liked the choices. I think we talked about. I think Russ talked about in the panel yesterday. The choices that you got to make early on were really cool, and we felt like that was a decision that we wanted you to make more and more of, and that's coming from that, the Azerite armor, each piece giving you a little bit of progression and getting a new piece giving you some more progression, and again more choices to make.
It's a bit complicated in my opinion.
Power, I almost called it Azerite power. I shouldn't do that.
Same acronym.
It is. It's AP. I think the biggest takeaway was I'm not sure I like getting trillions of artifact power, and so that's one of the things that we're looking at ways to solve.
I think one of the big differences with artifacts, there's no question that having tons of items in your bag, it's pretty clunky. It's an unwieldy experience. We needed to do that with artifacts because there was a different artifact weapon for each spec that was a core part of the fantasy of what these weapons were, and we didn't want somebody who was primarily a Fury warrior, but their friends needed a tank, saying, well, sorry, I don't really want to do that as prop because I want the artifact power for my Fury weapon, so we wanted you to be able to get it as an item, choose where to put it. With the amulet, there's only one for all your specs, and so we don't need the items, which means it can go right into your amulet right away. And when we don't have items anymore, it means we also don't need a way of implementing knowledge in a way that makes the rewards constantly scale up more and more and more. Instead, imagine a version of knowledge that simply slightly reduces the amount of Azerite you need to infuse into your amulet to get the next level, where a raid boss might always give you 200 Azerite as a consistent value throughout the entire expansion, so you can easily compare the numbers, understand how rewarding something is, and you're not dealing with billions, let alone trillions.
Thank you.
So we'll
Yeah,
be sticking with
the artifact power went
Azerite
out of
will
hand,
go
right?
in, correct?
So the Azerite doesn't go in the armor. The Azerite is actually leveling up your amulet. And so
Okay.
the level of the medallion is what will determine how many powers on your armor you can access.
Okay.
But you're not making a permanent investment in your shoulders. Like if you have a pair of shoulders with 2 tiers unlocked and you get a different pair that has better traits, that will also automatically have those 2 tiers unlocked if they're comparable in item level. And so your progression is permanent, and it's more about the choices you're making as you get the gear.
That is awesome. Let's go to our next
Interesting.
question.
So I think I get more or less how
Nobos from
this
Team
would
Toaster
work.
and Zeros to Heroes on Stormrage. My question is, what was your thought process in deciding to bring back raid buffs like Arcane Intellect and Mark of the Wild?
Oh, they will be introduced again?
I think the short answer is we liked them. We thought they were cool. A lot of what we're looking at, there's a couple different things here. So first,
I didn't know that.
there was something cool about that moment before you pull a boss and you get to see all of the buffs go out. That just kind of felt like, yeah, now we're ready. Right now you kind of sit down and eat some fish, and this was more a moment. So I think that was one. And then we're also, we're always looking at classes as, I bring something as my class that makes me feel special, and you bring something as your class that makes you feel special, and we like to have each other around. And that's something we're trying to find the right balance, because we don't want that to be a reason like you don't bring somebody to a raid. But at the same time, it's like, hey, if we can, if I'm a paladin, you're happy I'm a paladin. Or if I'm a warlock, you're happy that I'm a warlock because I provide this thing. Buffs are one way to do that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you.
Interesting. I didn't know that the buffs
Our
were
next question?
reintroduced in Battle for Azeroth.
Hi.
I like it.
Sorry.
Well, not the vanilla paladin buffs. Do you remember the 5 minutes buffs? I spent my whole raiding life in vanilla buffing.
PvP podcast. Shout out to Sovereign Alliance on Sargeras. My co-host Winstead, and my girlfriend Melanie at home watching. How do you feel about PvP templates? And specifically, how do you respond to PvP players who miss getting to manage their own stats through gear choice, enchantments, reforging, gems?
So there's a lot of, there's lots of unpack there. So we like the gameplay that Talons provide, I think. We like having a little bit more, a little less power gap between the top tier itemized players and the lower tier, and I think that's really good with it. The problems that we have with it are, it's hard to put that in the outdoor world. When does it turn on? When does it turn off? So one of the things that contributes to world PvP balance being a little off.
A little is a slight understatement there. Just saying.
Yeah, you're right.
It's a problem.
It is a problem. So we're really looking. I think that's one thing. The other thing was itemization, being able to customize your character more. We knew that there was a problem before, and I think we might have oversolved it with both reducing the power gap and also taking away all choice and itemization. So we're trying to see, like, we're looking at the tech that we use to scale zones. We think we might be able to do something there for PvP, and where we can kind of take what character you have, squish the power level so that it's not quite as big in PvP combat, but it's not, this huge change where all your stats change, and if I'm wearing all mastery gear, suddenly I get all crit gear.
Yeah. In principle, it's kind of the same approach that lets level 108 and level 105 player fight alongside each other against the same mob and has the combat work out. And the huge advantage of that is, even in the outdoor world, this would let us have a consistent rule set where it's never a situation where your template applies and all your stats change and you have different health than you're used to. We want your character to feel like your character. And for sure, in an RPG, that means making choices about what you're wearing and what your stats are.
Thank you.
Just one quick follow-up to that, too. I think one of the things we're going to have to do when we do that is look at the reward structure of PvP as well, because I think it's really hard to get stats that you want right now, given the structure that we have. So we're going to take a look at that, too.
Yeah, I think it would offer a good sense of uniqueness. People would feel like they're making their own choices on what they want, which is really cool. So we had a question that was from the audience, but they couldn't make it here, and I thought it would be a good time to ask. But what do you guys think about Titanforging in the Battle for Azeroth?
I think I've been asked this question around 20 times over the course of Blizzcon already, just wandering around the floor.
little passion.
So I think we're going to make tweaks, but not a fundamental change to the system. Sorry to those of you who are not fans, but the goal of this is to have variability in rewards. It's moments of excitement. It's, if you think back to raids back in the old days, if you're working, let's say, pretend you're in Tomb of Sargeras, you're working on Fallen Avatar now, your guild at this point has probably killed the first few bosses quite a number of times. Back in the day, if you were doing that farm content or that reclear to get to the boss you're on, except for maybe one item that you've been unlucky with, there really wasn't any hope for an upgrade for you on many of those nights, which also meant that collectively as a guild, your progress would stall, to say nothing of your own personal excitement. I think there's value in having upgrades out there, having moments of potential surprise. That said, a lot of the feeling of extreme spikes and randomness, obviously not great. So we may be taking a look at adjusting the odds and the ways in which the numbers of the system play out, but the core concept of the ability of an item to scale up in power, I think, is one that we want to continue with. However, this will not apply to the Azerite infused or Azerite attuned armor slots. So helm, shoulders, chest currently. Those already have plenty of complexity and depth to them without also adding this extra layer. So a mythic helm is a mythic helm is a mythic helm. It has those traits. Go after it. Don't worry about trying to get a Titanforged version of the one from the last tier because it theoretically might be better. It won't be.
Very good. Let's go back to the audience.
Hi, I'm Ikael from Havoc on Uther, and
I don't have that problem because I don't care about the optimal item.
Brotherhood. And my question is,
look at the trinket. I love the trinket with
players get
the
some
donut.
sort of rooting effect for
And
their
she has Pepe on the back.
characters to counteract pushback or knockback effects.
Oh.
So that's, I mean, obviously, you should all just race change to Goblin, then you can push Goblin Rocket Jump, and then, you know, no. There's some weirdness with the way knockbacks work and movement effects in terms of how they interact with other movement abilities. That specific example that you give, though, it's something we've actually talked about being a cool niche for Death Knights. Death Knights in particular, you know, the old school Pillar of Frost approach, where maybe they're not the most fast-moving one, but when everyone around them gets knocked down, everyone around them gets pushed back, they should be able to hold their ground, and that could be something that we expand upon in the Death Knight space.
Thank you. Very cool.
I'm eager to play Death Knight. I haven't been able to. I haven't had time to do it.
Hi guys,
But I'd
I'm
like
Misha
to
or
play it.
Skeletons. I'm from Oblivion's Dawn. I'm a raider on Wimmerstock Horde. And I've been playing this game since I was a little kid in Russia. So what my question for you guys is, World of Warcraft is an MMORPG. So what do you guys plan doing about a character creation system that feels so archaic and lackluster in comparison to other RPGs?
So, first of all, I agree with your assessment, and you know, at this point, it's just a matter of it feels like we haven't been responding to that comment, and there's a reason for that, being that we knew we were going to be doing allied races at some point, and when we took a look at the options that currently existed with, and this is just to speak to like hair and some of the existing options, we wanted to take a look at what we were going to do with allied races before we decided to add a bunch of things to the existing races. Having said that, we're at a point now where we have a good grip on that. I think we're going to take a really strong look at what we need to do to improve that system and make some change in that area.
Some more
That's
character,
nice.
character customization, it sounds like?
Yes, absolutely.
Very awesome.
What about posture?
I like it.
Any posture-related options in the
So yeah,
character
that's a
customization
big
space?
one, right? Like you know, we've been asked for quite a while about upright orcs and why hero orcs are different than hunched orcs. At this point, we are going to add that. So in 8.0, in character create, you will be able to choose between an upright orc and a hunched over orc.
Wow.
That's nice. Yes, yes, yes.
Nice.
If you have an existing orc, you'll be able to go to the barber shop, and there's a toggle switch that you can toggle on or off. So you can turn into, I guess you can go see that chiropractor.
It's the barber / cosmetic surgeon. Multi-talented fellow.
And just as a side note to that, it opens up some exciting doors for us because we'll be able to now have shared animation on one rig. So looking forward in the future, there will be a lot more that we will be able to do with new characters coming up.
Great.
Very awesome.
I'm eager to see
Let's take our next question.
those technologies put on the
Hello,
game.
my name's Colton, aka Darlassi on Sargeras. I main a disc priest, shout out the Praetian Guard. Now my question is, in the Battle of Azeroth, is Jaina actually a good guy? I mean, are we just supposed to forget the whole genocide of Dalaran?
Jaina's complicated, just like any other character. She's as evil as I am.
How evil are you?
That's these guys. So look, if I'm Jaina, right? As a character, Jaina is racked with regret, right? Looking over her past decisions and the things that she's done, responsible for the death of her father, potentially responsible for what the Horde is today as a result of that. What could she have done differently at Stratholme? Could she have saved Arthas? What about the battle for Undercity? So if you kind of unpack all of that and break all of those things apart, it's left a character that has some damage. And then not even speaking of Theramore. So one of the things we're going to do is explore that damage, explore those decisions with Jaina, and try to understand how she got to be the way she is, and hopefully pull her out of it. So no, she's not evil. She's conflicted, and it's something we absolutely want to explore.
Wow. I can't wait for that. Let's take
Amazing.
our next question.
I love the depth of the characters made in Warcraft, and Jaina is one
Guildmaster
of the favorite
of Timeless on Executive.
Like Sylvanas, for example,
I'm the
very
guy that
strong
wants ducks in the game
woman
because there's a lack
characters.
of quack. Have you ever looked up in a raid and noticed how many bosses have a hole in their ceiling? Why do so many bosses have holes in their ceilings?
They do. They do.
So that's an interesting question. I think there's multiple reasons for that. I mean, functionally, it opens up the opportunity for no camera collision. If you're, in an area that has a low ceiling, you're not going to have the camera bumping around on the ceiling. That's the functional reason. I think aesthetically, we look at, it's always nice to tie those locations into real-world locations. So you don't go into a raid or, a dungeon and kind of feel like you're off in the nether somewhere and not rooted in that zone that you started in. So from an aesthetic perspective, it allows us the opportunity to kind of show the outside world while you're in that environment without having windows or things that look out to the horizon. So it really is just kind of a combination of, like, when it makes sense, we do it. It offers the ability to have different color schemes, to introduce different colors in those environments. But there's no one reason I can tell you and go, it's because they don't like ceiling fans.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's take our next question.
Hi there, my name is Grant, also Nimitz on Stormrage, and my question is, with the Horde attacking Teldrassil and the Alliance attacking Lordaeron, what are your plans for the starting zones in those areas, and also just some of the other leveling zones in the Eastern Kingdoms and Kalimdor?
Starting zones aren't going to change. Leveling in the flow of time, we'll make improvements. But in order to appreciate the burning of Teldrassil, you kind of have to understand what Teldrassil is first, right? And the way time works in our games, it flows by level. So you'll still be able to start in Shadowglen, go to Dolinar, Darnassus, Darkshore, go through all of that, and then when you hit 120, we'll burn it all down. Pardon me. Same thing for Lordaeron and what happens there. You'll still make a character in Death Knell and go through all of those cool experiences and get to play as a quest giver and all that other fun stuff. And then we'll see what happens. But once you do get to that point in Battle for Azeroth where these events have occurred, the land around you will, of course, change. And potentially more, right? We've got a Warfront in Arathi that, who knows what'll happen there.
It sounds pretty immersive,
Thank you.
Actually. Keeping a good
It may be
storyline
dynamic,
like
right?
that. I like that a lot.
Arathi with the Don't
All right,
Fall.
let's go to our next question.
Hello, my name is Carrie. I'm one of
Pepe!
the officers
I love
in
Pepe.
the cult of El Pollo Grande, which is Dredden's #1 chicken cult. It's a thing. I had a question about Void Elves. So in-game, Illyria seems to be able to shift back and forth from Void Elf to High Elf form. Will playable Void Elves be stuck in Void Elf form, and why?
No. They will not. I don't want to say it's going to be a transformation like Metamorphosis. It's not quite at that level. We're tweaking that right now. They absolutely have a Void form. It's just a matter of how it's invoked. And We definitely
Kinda like
don't
the
want you
Worgen.
to be fully voided the entire time because, you know, the details are important. So we'll
But
see.
something possibly passive, sort of Shadow Priest.
Yeah, I mean-
but just kind of on its own accord.
Well, right now, when they go into combat, they'll void out, but we may pull that back. We may make it activatable. We'll play with it in beta.
It's a nice question because it could be like the Worgen
I'm
transformation,
Strick
right?
from Warfront Accord. For the last year, I've been raid leading a guild called the Archives. Shout out to anyone who was a part of that. Lately, I've been having to keep pushing people to like grind out old tier gear, old trinkets, all sorts of things to have to Titanforge them because they're always the best. What do you guys plan on doing for this to combat that when you're moving forward into the next expansion?
I mean,
You have
I
talked
think we
already
touched on
about
it a little bit earlier. I think the first thing we look at is, you know, how the rate that Titanforging is happening. That's the rate that Warforging is happening. But I think really we've gotten a lot better through the patches at actually balancing items against each other. And I think that's something we continue to look at as being a very important thing. Like item level should win. And a lot of times that people are fishing for old things. It's things that might be a little out of budget, like the Arcano Crystal. I heard it. 8.0. We're not sure yet. Could be stabilized then. But we really want to get those into a space where we can predict where they are, and then make sure that, you know, using other systems like we have with Azerite armor, where Azerite armor doesn't Titanforge, so you're not going to have to go back to get it. That's a very, hopefully that's a big burden off your shoulders when that goes live as well. So
I think, yeah, a couple of other aspects to that. I mean, part of the Trinkets thing is also just the relinquished system, and so you're not necessarily going back and actually killing the old bosses. It's more just part of your reward for doing the more recent content from that large pool of items. But separately, we've definitely had some issues with secondary stat balance, you know, and that's obviously the Arcana Crystal problem as well as a number of others. And it's hard to fix mid-expansion given the curve that we've committed to, but in general, we'd like to do a whole lot more to make item level more consistently determinative of what's going to be worth using and to avoid huge outliers that aren't intended like that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you.
Right.
Nice.
All right, so we had another question from an audience member who couldn't make it, but I decided it might be a good time to ask it. So with the new Old World Zone and dungeon scaling, what are your thoughts about adding mythic keystone difficulties to old dungeons?
Oh,
it's an interesting idea. I think Timewalking is something that we continue to expand. We expanded in breadth and depth. We've added new expansions, and then more recently started to add raids as another layer. Certainly for people who like the dungeon side of the gameplay, going back and doing the heroic dungeons via the random queue, not necessarily the most challenging experience, especially for those of you who are experienced pushing high-level mythic keystones. That could be a fun place to explore with some sort of time-walking keystone that's available during those respective weeks. It's a cool idea.
That's really cool.
It's amazing.
Let's go back to our audience.
Really nice.
Hi, I'm Pronk with Harvesters of Sorrow on Misha. You guys have been asked a lot of thoughtful, challenging questions, and you're about to get a break from that. My question is, once the expansion's out, how soon will we be flying?
Nice question.
As the honorary flying responder, I think honestly about the same as Legion. I think, and we're pretty happy with how that system's played out overall. You know, the way that worked out on Argus was as much a product of the environment as anything else, rather than any overriding design philosophy we had. If Argus had just been another zone right next to the Broken Isles, flight wouldn't have been the same issue there. But exploring the world, getting to know the nooks and crannies, the mountains, the shortcuts, the details of each experience that you have in a zone, it just works out better when you're exploring it on the ground initially. But we understand that in the long run, there's a lot of convenience, especially as you get to leveling alts, especially as you've pretty much seen all the nooks and crannies a number of times. You want to be able to skip over them and skip past them. Unlocking the ability to fly is a great reward to work towards. And I think looking at the number of people who've earned flying in Legion, it wasn't something that was very hard to acquire. It's just a matter of having to experience the content one time through from the ground, and then you can soar in the skies above it.
I agree. I think the piece of getting the flying Legion was amazing. And I'm not that bad with the decision of not being able to fly in Argus. I understand it. Like we had Throne of Thunder, the Isle of Thunder, I mean, Isle of Giants.
I'm the author of the GTFO add-on. And I...
Hey!
Hey! Nice to meet you.
And I'm actually a huge fan of the WoW Legion companion app, and I'm wondering what's the future look like for mobile apps moving forward?
Nice question, also.
So yeah, I think we're also huge fans of it, and being able to stay in touch with aspects of your character while you're on the go, while you're away, there's a lot of value, a lot of coolness there. It's something we want to keep building upon and enhancing in the future. We also recognize it's not necessarily the most convenient thing for people who have to bounce back and forth between that and the mobile armory app. We'd like to work towards rolling those two into one cohesive experience as we look to the future.
Great, great, great. Awesome.
Let's take our next question.
And sorry if the clap sounds too much.
Hello, I'm Vornath, Warlock on Zul'jin. Shout out to my brother and nephews watching at home.
Aww.
And my question is about Timewalking. I think it's been a great addition to the game.
I agree.
But as more and more Timewalking events have been added, and as I assume in the future more will continue to come, it's been getting longer and longer for the specific Timewalking event you want to come around. So I'm wondering if there's any chance of any kind of consolidation to maybe we'll just get one Timewalking event which they'll all be active or something along those lines.
Interesting.
I think some consolidation. I don't know that we would go to all at once. I think there is some value to looking forward to, when Wrath's going to come around again or when Kata's going to come around again. Those dungeons are, they're a nice experience, they're a nice change of pace from what's there in the modern game, but not necessarily ones that you want to be running all the time. As we continue
I
to
would
expand
like
Timewalking,
to
most of
run
that
them.
expanding really is added depth to the existing holidays. We'll probably add Warlords Timewalking at some point during Battle for Azeroth. That seems like a safe bet. But beyond that, it's more some of the stuff that was touched on in earlier questions. What other types of activities can happen during a given Timewalking week? Are there ways that we could bring the outdoor world into this as well? So it's not just about an instanced experience. That could be another cool space to explore.
Thank you.
Very cool.
I love Timewalking. I'm a total fan of Timewalking, but I hope they do more raids and in a different way,
healing
easier
monk
to do it.
were very rare on Alliance Manaroth. So with allied races being added, I gotta say the Zandalari trolls look amazing, and I am really close to think about switching to Horde. With that being said, Faction Pride is it's an ongoing struggle, and so is faction balance. So how do you keep Alliance playing Alliance and Horde playing Horde so that doesn't become more of an issue?
I mean, it sounds like you might want to look within yourself, and if you're looking at that Zandalari troll, and there's something there that speaks to you, maybe that's your answer. At the end of the day, right, that's a choice everybody has to make. And play the game
I love
the
my
way you
human
wanna play
paladin,
it.
sorry.
I think in terms of faction
I'm
balance
not going
on
to change.
servers, across the game as a whole, we've made a lot of improvements over the years, whether it's
really
cross-realm
look
auction
forward
houses
to play
as more of a default,
Void Elf.
or improved matchmaking across servers so that you can find people to play with regardless, to help address things on those levels. But play what you want to play.
I like that. I think the other thing I want to add to that is in one of your previous panels you were talking about the PvP toggling, and I feel like that's going to give a lot of faction pride because you can be with your group doing that.
Exactly.
Very cool. All right, our next question.
Hi, I'm Dimination from Revive on Stormreaver. My question is, what are your plans for Legendaries come Battle for Azeroth?
So we have Azerite armor, and Azerite armor in a lot of ways already kind of does what Legendaries did in Legion. So we're not looking forward. We're not actually taking that system forward into 8.0. I don't know about the future past that, But I think you
Yeah,
see
it
a
makes
lot
no
of the,
sense.
like
Unless
we
it's
looked
for
at the
trinkets,
legendaries that the people
rings.
like and the choices that they were able to make, and kind of wrap that into what was cool about Azerite armor, and took kind of lessons from artifacts. We took lessons from legendaries, so they don't really seem necessary in their current form in 8.0.
Thank you.
Yep.
I like that. Our next question?
Hi, I'm Nairu from Drengen Horde. Shout out to my guild. You can't fix stupid. So what's going on with the quest log size limit? Can we increase it?
Yes, please. Yes. Yes, please.
A lot.
Get it bigger, please. Make it. We need a larger quest log.
Moderately increase it.
In the realm of things we talk about all the time, I think this comes up quite a bit too. The hard part is, I think there's a lot of things to look at with the quest log size. I think we have a lot of quests that are ending up in your log right now that probably don't need to be there. Maybe they can be somewhere else. Maybe they don't need to live there for so long. Like, I think you kind of end up accumulating, like I was looking at my log recently, I had about 20 quests, and most of them I don't remember picking up because they were, I was getting mission rewards, or I was flying through areas and getting quests pushed to me. So I think we're going to attack that first. When you have 25 quests in your log, it's really hard to keep track of all of them. We added, if we added up to 35 or 50 or whatever you guys are asking for, I think it would still be overwhelming, and you'd end up being like, okay, well, I still have now 50, and now I have to go through and figure out what things I don't want to do. We'd rather you didn't have to choose between quests that you want to do and quests that you don't want to do, and try to attack that first.
I like it.
Right.
All right, let's do our next question.
Put in separate categories, like profession ones, weeklies, account-wide ones.
Rar.
Hi, Rar.
Hi.
Sorry. Night Elf Druid on Greymane. My question is about the default backpack. When will hoarders have more space?
Please.
But I think it's solved with the other.
Alliance and the Horde, we hear you. We are very close to allowing you to slightly increase your backpack size.
Oh!
One of the things that we want to do is we want to incentivize you to use the authenticator. And so at some future patch, if you have an authenticator attached to your account, your backpack size will increase.
What?
Nice!
Great. Thank you.
That's awesome! Because I have it. I have it.
Next question?
No, really nice.
Hi, my name is
a
Luke,
reward for
and
security.
I
Nice.
race with my guild Easy Play on UCRAU. And as we're raiding, and with the faction conflict taking center stage, I was wondering if we can even see different raid bosses for the factions, or are we going to see different stories or different reasons why we're in raids?
Ooh.
So definitely different stories, different reasons for a lot of these places. Your purpose going into a Tal Dazar or a place in Nazmir as a Horde player will be quite different from what you're hoping to accomplish in terms of the wrapping and the context for it as an Alliance player.
Mhm.
The bosses are the bosses, the place is the place, but
The
different
reasons
reasons
are
to do the
different.
same things. Now,
Mhm.
looking further ahead, we talked a bit about some of the raids that we have planned, and those are again tied to the storylines of these new subcontinents, but there's no reason at all why faction conflict, true faction conflict, can't play out in a raid setting or a dungeon setting. If I'm Alliance and Horde is the enemy, then shouldn't I be raiding the Horde? And shouldn't a raid boss be a member of the Horde?
Oh!
It's a place to explore.
We should burn down someone.
Really interesting.
I
Really interesting.
I really,
Really,
liked
really,
from,
really
I mean,
interesting,
even
yeah.
going back to Wrath at the Trial of the Crusader,
Like
where we
tri-
had a
yeah,
very similar
Trial of
kind
the
of
Crusader is
PvP-esque boss instance, and so to see something like that, I mean, maybe would be pretty cool again.
Yeah. Bring back the faction champions.
All right, our next
We are going to see it in the,
I'm Clevis
in the
from
Isles
Warfront,
expeditions.
And my question is regarding World of Warcraft Classic. And I'm wondering, do you plan to fix the bugs, exploits, and other issues that we may or may not remember from Vanilla WoW? Or do you have a philosophy at this point of warts and all to get that authentic experience?
That's a really good question, and it's a complicated one. So, I think part of the reason, one of the things we talked about in the announcement was that this is going to take a little bit longer than maybe you might imagine. And part of that is to engage with you guys, the community, to talk about some of these concerns and talk about some of these issues. I think our philosophy is, to have a compass heading that is to recreate the level 1 through 60 experience as you remember it. I think there were bugs and exploits that led to crashes and led to service downtime. Obviously, we don't want that to be part of the experience. But there are going to be some questions that are going to be really interesting that we're going to have to answer in terms of how things worked at certain points during the 2 years that the original 1 through 60 experience existed. And there's all kinds of things that come to mind, but the one I'll bring up is Ubers, right? Like Ubers for a lot of the time was both a 10-player instance and a 5-player instance. And then as we get close to releasing Burning Crusade, we got rid of the 10-player instance. What's the right version of Classic? That's something that we have to talk about for sure.
Nice, interesting.
Cool. Let's go to our
But
next
I don't want the 40 raids.
Hi,
40 raids were a mess, I heard.
From Crescendo on Area 52. My question is, the allied races look amazing, and their heritage armor looks amazing. If I unlock the heritage armor on a Nightborn, can I then transmog it on my Blood Elf?
Yeah, I think they saw it. No?
Yeah, sorry. I mean,
a Blood Elf, no.
Next question. Yeah. No, it's the heritage armor is the unique expression, is the essence of that allied race's identity, and it's for them and them alone.
They can't just share.
No, they won't be able to transform
Sorry.
into the humans.
Doesn't work that way.
Looks like we're going to be leveling a few, huh?
Thank you.
All right, our next question.
My question is, will they increase the size of of characters per realm?
Jay, you think we do, and we do. The question is regarding all the new social things that you guys are implementing. When are we going to see an increase to our friends limit? Because I've had 200 friends for like the last 10 years.
Okay, that's not true because the limit used to be 100.
I have a list that I have to keep adding and taking people on.
Yeah, so I agree, and especially as we've continued to increase the amount of social systems and the amount of different games that are available for you, the amount of friends that we need to support also needs to increase greatly, and so. I can't talk about, so one of the challenges with this is every game has to do some work in order to kind of do this simultaneously. There's work on the BattleNet side, there's work on each individual game in order to kind of do this, so it's a more complicated thing than you might imagine, but it absolutely is something that we need to do and make significantly larger.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
I was wondering that if there will be a bigger...
Hi there, my name is Reckles with One to Buy Gold, and I have a question about gold making. So I'm really nervous about item scaling, and I'll try to do an example so I'm clear. If I'm trying to farm like a level 63 shoulder, I need to go out and kill a level 63 enemy in Outlands. If I can get it from a 64, but the drop rate cuts in half. Well, now y'all are saying that these zones are going to go all the way to 80. How is the loot drop rate system changing? What are y'all doing? How is it going to affect us going forward?
He's a transmog collector for sure.
Yeah,
he's a gold collector.
I just sell them.
Yeah, so we talk about Classic and how hard it is to go back to that. Like scaling zones is kind of going back through 12 years of history and trying to figure out how all of this works in that system. Specifically with this, our philosophy is basically if the thing dropped it before, it's going to keep dropping it. So things that, like gold will scale. It makes sense for gold to scale. If I'm doing a zone at 60, I should get the same amount of gold out of it. But if it's dropped, let's say it drops silk, it should still drop silk when we do our changes. That may not be 100% true based off of just some weird things that we might run into, but that's our philosophy that we're going with.
All right. Next question.
Thank you.
So they would be dropping the same...
Zakul from Stormrage. Shout out to Zeros to Heroes.
Depending of the
third shift, best shift.
My question was on the Warfronts, and specifically on their length. I was wondering if they're going to be a longer experience, kind of like a raid. Are they something you can just jump into and do? Are our raid leaders going to yell at us if we're in one 30 minutes before raid? I was just wondering if you could elaborate on how long they're going to be and how you came to their length.
So some of that is really TBD at this point. Like we have, we think they're going to be a little bit longer than dungeons, but how far past that is still up in the air. Because I mean, there's a lot of pacing that goes along with it. You're building buildings, right? You're training troops. You want those troops to matter for at least a little bit of time. So it's still something that we're trying to dial in, and through our playtest, I think we'll find something. And I'm sure it's something that when you guys get it in beta, we'll get a lot of feedback and be able to adjust off of that too.
Maybe like Azeroth, right? It could be interesting.
So it looks like we have gone through a lot of audience questions so far, and we haven't even touched our online questions.
Oh, wow.
So I think we need to take a couple, if we can, from online. And our first question was, what classes will be available to each allied race, and will they differ from current races? Why or why not?
So there's an interesting aspect of that question. So these are allied races. These aren't sub-races. There's no direct associated race or parent race or anything like that. So when we are approaching what a new allied race should be able to play, we're looking at the identity and the culture of that race and what makes sense, the same way we would with any new race we're adding to the game. We're going to go through that process. Where possible, err on the side of letting you play as much as possible, because we want those options. If you love a class and you love a race, we want to try to make it happen. If it makes sense, you know, something like a Void Elf Paladin, not quite. I don't think that's going to happen. But that's sort of the logic and how we're approaching it. I believe the race class matrix
Void Elf Priest?
For Void
Makes
Elves,
the
Lightforged, High and Nightborn are up on the website right now for Battle for Azeroth, and we'll have more information to share on others in the future.
All right, and back to that, we actually had another viewer want a little bit of an explanation between how the Void Elves are Alliance and the Nightborn are Horde, and how is it not the other way around, or what's going on with that?
You're going to have to play the Battle for Azeroth to find out, because all the allied races have their own introductory quests, and we really want to make sure that you have context as players as to that exact question. Hey, why did the Nightborn go to the Horde and not the Alliance? Why did the Void Elves go to the Alliance and not the... We'll explain all of that, and that will be made very clear, and that will give you that sense of alliance, allegiance.
All right.
Nice.
Another viewer would like to know, will the Legion threat end before the Battle of Azeroth for Azeroth, and what does that mean for the purpose of the Demon Hunter class?
Oh.
They just turn into hunters?
Yeah.
Yeah?
That's pretty
Take up a bow and arrow and call it good.
Pepe! I love
It's a serious
Pepe.
question,
And a
right?
snowball.
Look,
Nice.
their main purpose has been thwarted, right? The reason they exist. But not really. I mean, ultimately, demon hunters are blood elves and night elves. And they're doing what they do for the same reason Illidan was, right? Which is to protect the world. The world that he loves. And the threat to that world hasn't stopped. If anything, it's getting crazier in the post-Legion world, where we've got a world that's damaged and potentially dying. So their charge is not over. They will continue to be demon hunters, and I would argue that one day we'll probably see demons again. So we'll need them.
All right.
Nice, nice.
Another viewer would like to know, are the continents of Kalimdor and Eastern Kingdom completely split between the factions? And what does that mean for places like Silvermoon City and Exodar still?
Well, Silvermoon and Exodar are still Alliance and Horde, respectively. It's those zone boundaries are very tricky for NPCs to cross. So they can't. We will have a fictional. We will have fiction in place. Obviously, those two kind of become the last bastions of their factions, and maybe a way in for those factions as well. And we'll be sure to use them in this battle.
Very cool. And our
So
next
we
viewer
will have
would like
some
to know,
life
when
in,
are we going
the
to see
extra
updated Worgen and Goblin character models?
Oh.
Please.
So apparently that's something that people want, I guess.
Just a little bit. Yeah.
So actually, Ian and I have been trolling each other all weekend, saying opposite things for some odd reason. So just to clear things up, not for 8.0, but we are actually currently working on them. And no disrespect meant to either of those races for the delay it's taken us to get to that. I play a Goblin. We love those guys. I feel like the Goblin, and I think collectively we feel like the Goblin as a race are looking really good and really cool, both the male and female. They just need that visual update and more animation so they feel like they're in line with the current fidelity of the rest of the races. So Worgen, on the other hand, very happy with the male Worgen. I understand there's also a lot of unhappiness with the female Worgen, so as part of that process we would like to offer more facial features for them so they feel a little bit softer or more wolf-like and less chihuahua-like.
They're just sassy. All right. Our next viewer would like to know, in the future, when we opt in for World PvP, what will be the draw for that, and how do you figure out the reward level to incentivize that?
That's going to be a challenging process, but it's an important one. So as mentioned at the panel, the idea is to offer some increased efficiency to offset the natural inefficiency that comes from questing in a PvP environment. You know, even if you're the one doing the ganking and you're winning all your fights, that's still slowing you down compared to somebody who is just questing with no distractions. And we don't want people who love PvP to feel like they're hamstringing themselves playing the way they enjoy. And so the point of these bonuses will be to offset that inefficiency. Obviously, if we go too far, the risk would be pressuring players who don't like PvP and don't feel comfortable doing it into a playstyle they don't enjoy because it seems so lucrative. So those are the philosophies that are guiding us. Finding those exact values is going to be a process of reflection and tuning and feedback and hearing from all of you.
And when you're switching yourself to PvP, you do it in a major city. It doesn't happen in like a zone town, in a...
Yes, that's essential, right? So you'd have to be in a major capital like Stormwind or Orgrimmar or Dalaran, and you're making a choice that's not an easy to switch one. When you go out into the world, you're committing to that. It's not a thing to just bounce back and forth as the mood strikes you.
Right, and then you're phased. You don't see any of the PvE people out there. You don't see anything like that?
Exactly. Effectively, you are on a PvP server when you set out into the world, and if you make the other choice, you're on a PvE server when you set out into the world.
Why did you join?
Rule sets. But again, that's a foundation that we can build upon to create all new content and really improve world PvP significantly.
Great, I like it. All right, our next viewer online would like to know, can we please have more character slots per realm?
That was my question.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah, so I think...
we did it!
Thanks. I think along with allied races, with Battle for Azeroth, we'll be giving you 6 additional ones because there's 6 allied races to unlock. And if you have your characters maxed out in a given server, we don't want you to have to feel like you need to delete a character in order to
6 more slots? That's awesome!
To, you know, when we added the Demon Hunter, we gave a character slot. Similar story here.
Very cool.
Nice, 6 slots?
Right,
are you kidding? That's
I'm
awesome.
Excited for
nice.
That, but our next question is
the
unlockable
around
heritage armor only going... Oh, I think we kind of answered this, but so it's only going to be usable on the respective allied race, correct? You can't use it on any other class or anything like that. It's not account-wide.
That is correct. And part of the reason for that, aside from just to, I guess, another follow-up, aside from how important it is for that race's heritage, just gameplay-wise, we wouldn't want you to feel like if you want to collect cool transmogs that you need to make a race that you have no interest in playing, level it all the way to max level, and then throw it away just to get this one look. You should play it because you want to play it because you think the race is cool.
Very good. All right, and then our next viewer would like to know, with your renewed focus on the cross-server communities, will we be able to trade flasks with our friends on other realms or consumables, things like that?
This is, something else we're looking into. We need to figure out a way to do it so that it doesn't also cause weird economy issues between servers, and I think that's the challenge that we've been going with. But we all have, I think with cross-realm raiding being such a success, and I think you end up with 1 or 2 people in your, or maybe your entire raid is from different servers, it gets weird that you can't trade those things. We also do things like we have feasts which work cross-server, we have cauldrons that work cross-server, so that might be another way to do it. But I honestly, we'd love to find a way that you could trade those kinds of commodities without ruining economies that are different across each server.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and I think we have time for one more question. This one's pretty important. How or when do we sign up for the beta?
There's actually a web page that we put up that has all of the features for Battle for Azeroth. It's got details, and Ian mentioned the different classes that are available for for 4 of the different allied races. That's actually up right down at the very top. It has a place for you to watch the cinematic and watch the intro features, and also sign up for the beta and get updates on when public testing begins.
Awesome. Oh, I'm going to sign up straight away.
Well,
I want a beta. I want access. I want to check these
panel.
new features.
I want to thank you guys so much for being here and giving
And I
us a
want
lot
to
of
create a void elf. I don't like that much the the iron dwarfs are also really interesting, but the one that got my eye was the void elves.
Being here. Thank you all for watching on the virtual ticket. We'll see you guys later.
Oh, too short was it, right? Anyway,
thank you for attending World of Warcraft live Q&A. Up next, the Inside the Overwatch League panel.
I'm not going to record that. Well, thanks a lot for watching it with me. I guess you saw it already in live. I hope you did, because it's awesome. Thanks for watching this video with me. Let me know in the comments below what are your tips, your suggestions, what are your ideas about the game. My main ideas I get from this is one, the larger backpack with the authenticator. Second, 6 more slots. I think I understood well. I may be wrong, but I think it was. He said that will be 6 races, 6 slots. There are a lot of stuff that was amazing regarding the battlefronts that won't be just over and over. I think if things turn out like I think they will, it would be something like the brawls, or like the archaeology quest that it's once every 2 weeks. Right, something like that. So 2 weeks Warfront, 2 weeks not Warfront, or 1 to rest, 1 week break, something like that. I don't know. It could be interesting, right? Anyway, it's been a pleasure as always bring you these kind of videos. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm really happy with the content that they have announced for Battle for Azeroth. I love it. I'm really eager to play it. There are a lot of things that we wonder about the characters, about the development of the story. I'm eager to read Before the Storm from Christy Golden, that will be launched the 15th of May. And I don't know. There are a lot of things going on that are pretty amazing. Another thing that I want to highlight is the fact that if you are starting a Forsaken race, you will still have the same experience as before until you are 110. Then you will see Lordran conquered by Alliance, or if you are a Night Elf, not necessarily a Night Elf, whatever race class, whatever, you will experience from 1 to 110 as it was before, and from this level up you will watch Teldrassil burned and Lordaeron taken from the Horde. I realized something similar with I was leveling my Warlock. I'm having a lot of fun with it. I just hope they introduce the new animation shortly. I have been watching the World of Warcraft art panel, and they talked about that. They said that they were working on it, that there are some classes, that combos between classes and races that maybe take a bit longer to be developed. So we will have our Warlock animation soon. The revamped ones, I mean. because if you have had the chance to check the new caster animations in mages, druids, priests, they are amazing, shamans, they are amazing. I love it. I love the new animations. I have seen also the art for the zones. I think that Kultira's zones have a lot of influence from games like The Witcher. Those druidic cultures, you know, like the European, Eastern European countries, like druidic things like that. Well, not only Eastern European, but also the I don't know, the Celtic, pagan, right, culture, things like that. But what I was saying, yes. I was leveling my warlock and I saw something. If I went to the Blasted Lands, the Blasted Land that I was in was the previous to the Warlords of Draenor launch, so I couldn't see the Iron Horde taking the Blasted Lands. So it will be similar, and I think it will be similar also to Theramore. Is similar to Theramore. It's been a long time. I haven't gone to Theramore. It will be similar to Silithas with the new changes that will be going on. That hurt in Silithus, that hurt to the planet, and I think it will be something similar to Teldrassil and Lordaeron. I think Blizzard has learned a lot from past expansions, and the launch of Legion was extremely smooth, and I bet that Battle for Azeroth will be the same. We have the several zones that will cause less lag. I hope to see what happens with our artifacts. They were amazing. We loved it. We loved them. But I want to keep my Ashbringer. Come on. And my Silverhand. I'm a Truth card. But mainly my Ashbringer. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching. Please share your thoughts with me in the comments below. And as always, you have my final screen where you have my social media, you have my button to subscribe, you know subscribe is good for me, and you have a playlist with all the video reactions. I am planning to do a specific video with all the World of Warcraft features that will come with the Battle for Azeroth that had been announced in this BlizzCon. So, once again, thanks for watching and see you, of course, if you want, in the next video. Bye bye!